What are you doing, Aloy? This path leads to the cut.
Horizon Zero Dawn for me is not only my game of the year, but one of the best new IPs this entire generation. So that pretty much highlights the incredibly high expectations that the DLC expansion Frozen Wilds had to live up to. Thankfully, they've done an amazing job. I think this expansion pack is a really great addition to the main storyline and the main game. Not only does it live up to the expectations, but it actually makes a few improvements and enhancements to the game. This expansion follows Aloy as she heads into a brand new region of the map called the Cut and encounters a brand new people called the Banuk. The Banuk are a very powerful tribe who are deeply religious, and they believe strongly that the machines turning against them is the result of the gods being angry with them, rather than there being any sort of scientific or logical reason behind it. This aspect of the story is actually quite interesting as it really debates the philosophy between God and science. And what else I find really enjoyable about this story is the fact that it's quite accessible for anyone. So whether you've played the main game to its completion like myself, or you're someone who's still playing through the game, you could play this expansion without having anything spoiled for you or without feeling like you've missed out on anything.
Grief, my hunters, and kill it! For our kin sees the fate all Banuk long for, falling with their spears striking steel.
The Frozen Wilds is a technical masterpiece. The graphics are simply outstanding. But where I think this improves even more than the main part of the game is the amazing way they've depicted the weather conditions in the Cut. The Cut is found in the northernmost region of the map, and as a result, it is incredibly cold. Throughout the whole playthrough, you're basically going to be in snow and in snowstorms, and they've done an amazing job in depicting these graphics and these storms in the game. What I really enjoy about the Frozen Wilds is the fact that this expansion feels like it was actually something that has been made post-release. It doesn't feel like other games where it's DLC that's been cut up from the main game and just been split up in order to charge more to the consumer. This expansion actually improves upon the main game. There actually are new weapons, there actually are new armor, there actually are new skills to improve upon your character, and a lot of these skills, for example, aren't skills that really revolutionize the game, but actually make a few things better. So improving the resource collection, you can actually pick resources up when on your mount, and things of that nature, things that just tweak the game a little bit. But what I also really enjoyed about this expansion is the fact that there are new enemies, really powerful enemies that actually make this game quite challenging. There are also new mechanics to the game, such as the control towers. These towers essentially make all local enemy AI almost impenetrable by continuously regenerating their shields, which is a cool new mechanic, which basically means that you now have to take down the towers first before being able to clear out the area. And what I really enjoy is the fact that there's different ways you can approach taking down the towers. You can either try and shoot down the tower cells by shooting arrows from a distance, or you can go with the stealth approach and actually get right next to the towers and actually override them in order to disable it as well. This is a really nice mechanic and something that's actually new to the expansion, which actually shows how much time and effort they put into this. I also really enjoyed the light puzzles in the game. I really think they were a lot more challenging, a lot more interesting than the node puzzles that have been pretty much throughout in the main part of the game. The new expansion has a few instances of these new light puzzles which I think are much better and a lot more challenging puzzle than any of the previous ones in the game. I touched upon it earlier, but this game is quite challenging. This expansion is probably even more challenging than the main game. I think what makes it probably even more enhanced is the fact that toward the end of the main part of the game you do reach a level where you're almost invulnerable, where you are quite overpowered. But all of that is basically thrown out the window when you first start playing the Frozen Wilds. As I mentioned, the control towers make a lot of the enemies very challenging. They also have their demonic forms, which means you can't override a lot of the enemies. They're actually impossible to do. And I actually found that quite often the minimum level was actually too low. That in fact you need to be a lot higher to be able to take down the enemies. So although the recommended level might be level 35, quite often my character was in the mid 40s, and even then it was quite a challenge. And whether that's a positive or negative, I guess I can leave it up to you. But for anyone who's looking for a relatively smooth experience and not really looking to die a lot or be overly challenged, the Frozen Wilds might be a bit too much of a challenge for you. But I personally found it just about okay, although there are a couple of instances where they put you in really tough situations where you have to fight multiple powerful Frostcore type opponents in one small area that I personally found a little frustrating. But overall I think it's just about okay in terms of a challenge, although that might not be the case for everyone. Although the Frozen Wilds has improved a lot over the main game and improved a lot of its aspects and few errors I had, there's one issue that still persists that I'm a little disappointed about. One of the things that I don't like about the melee combat in the game is the fact that there's no auto-lock system. So when you're encountering multiple opponents, in most games you're able to lock onto a particular opponent, and that way your attacks will be focused upon that one enemy. This is unfortunately something that doesn't exist in Horizon Zero Dawn, or unfortunately this expansion pack, meaning sometimes it can be quite an issue when you're against multiple opponents in terms of getting accurate shots against one particular foe. This is somewhat disappointing, to be honest. I was hoping this is something that they'd be able to add to the game, but it looks like unfortunately they have not yet. And I hope that is something that they look to improve in any sequel. Another slight negative issue was the fact that I found it a little bit confusing in terms of how to actually start the Frozen Wilds expansion, and also then how to actually get to the cut. And although this isn't a major issue, it was slightly difficult initially when I first started it. And I think in future expansions, they gotta make it a lot more clear in terms of how to actually begin the expansion. Now the biggest negative I think of the Frozen Wilds was actually a couple of instances where I actually encountered major glitches. A couple of times I found myself completely trapped as I'd fallen through a couple of rocks whilst jumping and trying to escape from a battle, and actually found that I was completely trapped, and in fact I had to revert back to a previous save. Now, as my memory, I don't think I ever encountered this in the main portion of the game. Now maybe I was just lucky, but in my experience the only time I've seen this is during this Frozen Wilds expansion. And although it already happened a couple of times, it was a little bit game breaking, as I mentioned, I had to go back and revert the save. This was quite frustrating, but I will say it was very infrequent. I think I saw it maybe 2-3 times at max. Overall, I've found Horizon Zero Dawn Frozen Wilds to be an excellent expansion. It has improved upon many aspects. It's added new gameplay features, new mechanics, new armor, weapons and enemies, which makes it feel like it's been a true expansion, something that's been a lot of time and effort have been put behind it, rather than, as I've mentioned, other games where it feels like all they did was just slice open a piece of the main game just to sell it off in the future. Whereas in this instance it feels like something that's actually improved upon the main game, and it's actually worth the amount of money. I think it's not a full price game, yet it adds so much more content, adds a lot more gameplay features, and although there is a few negative aspects as I've outlined, I think it is an excellent expansion overall, which is why I give it a 9 out of 10. Thank you very much for listening. Please do like and subscribe. Thank you very much.